Today I'm going to show you how to do this painted background effect. I'm going to do an actual tutorial. I'm going to try to anyway. This is something that I'm making for some reason that I don't know yet. I design kind of backwards. Instead of coming up with an idea and then finding the materials and stuff that I need to make that idea happen, I come up with the materials and stuff first and then figure out what to make out of them. That's just how I roll. And for a while I started collecting junk mail. These are just those glossy junk mail flyers that you get. They look kind of like this. Little postcard things. Some of them are kind of big. See, these are substantial, and they're fairly, it's a fairly good weight, especially for book pages. I might make a junk mail journal out of them. They'd make really good greeting cards, you know, whatever. But they're free for us anyway. And so you can collect a whole bunch of them within about a couple of weeks. Easy to do. So start off with some glossy junk mail flyers. And then the other materials you're going to need are some paint. And the correct paint to use for this technique is the paint that you have. You can use acrylic craft paint. I happen to have these little sample things of paint from the Oops rack at Lowe's and Home Depot, and it's just latex house paint. Some of it's interior, some's exterior, whatever. Whatever paint you have, whatever color you like, that's what you need. You're going to need some paint brushes, probably two, a wide one and then a not so wide one. You're going to need some water for those brushes. You're going to need some paper towels. I like Viva. You can use whatever brand you prefer. You're going to need some, okay, you're not going to need these, but if you happen to have some water-soluble oil pastels, these are fabulous, and I'm going to talk more about those later. And also a set of watercolors. And that's it. You're going to start out by painting your postcard. This is a really glossy surface, which doesn't take a lot of mediums very well, but this is kind of a junk mail, freeform collage-y thing. I may end up putting images over the painted surface, so I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm just looking for fun and color. So take your paint, paint it on. Obviously, doesn't have to be perfect. You can put it any way you like. You can use one color, you can use 3, you can use 7, whatever you want. And I am going to kind of cover most of my surface since I'm really not sure what I'm going to do with these. I mean, I'll probably end up collaging over them, but I don't know. So put that on there. Then you're going to let this dry. If you're impatient like me, you can hit it with a heat gun or a hairdryer for a minute, and I'm going to do that. Good enough. I have a really nice Weller heat gun, but it's on the fritz. It's making this really funny sound when I turn it on. It's almost like a crackly electrical sound, and it's scary. So I'm not using it. I just need to take it apart. I bet if I take it apart I can figure out what's wrong. Maybe there's just something loose in there, but I haven't done it. So I've got my trusty old, whatever that is, Milwaukee, I think. But your hairdryer will work fine. Or you can just be patient and wait for it to dry. Okay, second coat, just so I've got decent coverage there. Let's dry it again. Okay. Now, I like to splatter a little bit of paint on there just for some texture and interest, and I use my same brush, my same paint. I just add some water and just splatter it. You can use the same color. If you're using just one color, you can just use the same color that you painted it. When it's watered down, it lightens up so it looks like a different color. Or you can use a totally different color. You can use 3 colors or just one, whatever. Doesn't matter. This is really just kind of a make it up as you go along technique. Okay. Now we're all splattered. You want to let that dry. And I actually had the forethought to plan ahead, and I already did one that's dry. Check it out. I feel just like, you know, those cooks on the Food Network when they're making the dish and, you know, it gets to the point where they need to bake it for an hour and a half and they go to the oven and they've automatically got one already there. I think that's awesome. So, you've got your paint on there, you've got your splatters on there, you've got probably a mess on the back. That's fine, don't worry about it, we're going to do something with that later. Now you want to go to the oil pastels. Now these are, let me show you what these are. Can you see that? I think so. Okay. These are called Portfolio. They are water-soluble oil pastels. They're made by Crayola, I think. They're inexpensive. You can get them, okay, look, I wrote it down. I feel I'm with it today. You can get them on Amazon, the 24 count package for $9.99, and it qualifies for free Super Saver shipping, which makes me very happy. So they're inexpensive, really. And there's just, I use them a lot. There's tons of things that you can use. You know that you can use these in your hair. Have you seen that hair talking where people are putting pastels in their hair to make it like pink and blue? I tried it. Pretty cool. Anyway, these are a good investment. If you don't have them, don't worry about it. Don't have to use them. You can use plain watercolors. You can use regular oil pastels. Instead of adding water, you can just add a little bit of vegetable oil to blend them. You know, so whatever. And these, see, don't these look nice? This is my extra stash, but let me show you the ones that I actually use. Yeah, this is them. Obviously, this is not the ideal way to store your water-soluble oil pastels. I don't know why I put them in this bag, and then I don't know where this bag has been. Look at these. I don't know if I left them in my car, or, I mean, they're awful. I don't know what happened, but you know what? They work just fine. So, we're going to use some of those. Now, you want to grab whatever pastel is closest to you. If you're worried about what colors go together, I'll tell you a little trick. The colors that go together are the ones that are next to each other. That's how you tell if they go together. In other words, it doesn't matter. They all go together. Draw it on there randomly. Add some water. Brush it on. Now this next step, this is the only time when I do something actually sort of intentional. I'm going to just use a paper towel to rub this around just to blend it in, make it all blendy. But I'm going to start with the lightest color, and that's just kind of a common sense thing because, you know, when you blend colors, eventually they're going to get muddy. And you don't want to muddy up your yellow right at the get-go. It's going to muddy a little anyway, but if you start with it, you have a better chance of retaining some actual yellow. And I sort of blend a little and then move to a clean spot on the paper towel. That just keeps it from getting too muddy too fast. Just swirling it around. And these things dry pretty fast. I mean, they're already starting to sort of set up. So, get them blended, swirl them around. And there you have it. And how easy was that? That was super easy. And I think I mean, it's kind of impressive. It looks like you really put more effort into it than you actually did. But that's all there is to that. Now, I'll go over to the back side, and I'm going to end up splotching my front side, but that's alright because that will just add interest. And I've got I sort of painted around the edges a little bit. On this side, what I'm going to do is just do some watercolor. I'm not going to bother with the painting at first. And the watercolors I use this super fancy brand of frou-frou artist colors from Prang. And I'm being sarcastic. If you know, Prang is for students and kids, is very inexpensive. I bought these at Hobby Lobby for $5.79, probably 157 years ago. I looked them up today. You can get them on Amazon, again, free Super Saver shipping, for between $7 and $8 for the 16 color pack. And that just makes me happy. Look, how can you not look at that and be happy? That is a happy watercolor palette. I like that. So cheap watercolors are all you need. I've had these for seriously years and years. They've lasted. They're good. The colors are vibrant. I don't see any sense in spending a bunch of money on fancy watercolors. This is where I used a little bit smaller brush, and that's just because my pans are smaller and my big brush would just make a mess. So that's the only reason I switched to a smaller brush. And when I start using watercolors, you're going to want some fresh water to start with. Don't use your water that you've already muddied up with your other brush. So use some fresh water, and I usually start by just putting a few drops in each little well so that they start to get kind of mushy. And I've already done that actually. And then you want to, once again, carefully select your colors. And you will select those by whichever little pan your brush lands in. Well, that's the right color that you need. And doesn't matter how many you do. You can do 3 or 4. Look, you can even do brown. And then you can actually kind of leave it, depending on the cardstock, the postcard surface that you're using. Sometimes they'll kind of splotch up like this, which is really kind of cool looking. You could let it dry like that if you wanted to. Other times they'll bead up and just almost disappear. Like they won't stick at all. And those are really disappointing. I would never, ever patronize the business that sends out one of those types of postcards, because I can't use the postcard. I don't need that. Put the watercolor on there, then I just do what we did on the front. Blend it around. And this is really just sort of staining the surface. I'm not trying to cover up the advertisement. I'm just adding some color. See? That's all you need. And I'm going to dry that just a little bit because it's a little wet. Okay, I'm trying to hurry through this because I want to get it done before Taylor gets up so that she doesn't make fun of me. Yesterday I made her leave the house because she was laughing at me for standing here talking to myself into a camera, and I have to admit I do feel a little ridiculous. Okay, done with watercolors. Yeah, you can call this finished, or I like to go back in with just a few of the oil pastels. And at this point, I don't need to add any more water, just to intensify the color. Sometimes the watercolors look a little too muted. Oh, there we go. I like that. And we're done. So like I said, I'm probably going to bind these into some kind of, maybe a junk mail journal, but you can use them for greeting cards or pages in an art journal, you know, whatever you want. And they all come out looking different, even though I've used the same exact colors for all of them, but they all end up just a little bit different inside and out. So there you have it. Pretty cool. Show you these again. See, those are happy junk mail cards. One thing I do want to tell you is to be sure that you save your surface that you're working on. I line mine with, you know, some kind of scrap paper. You can use, you know, newspaper or phone book, whatever, just to protect your surface that you're working on. And then whenever my next project I do, I'm going to do it on top of here also, because someday all of these paint blobs and markings are going to be fabulous. Like here's one. When I was making those other ones, that's what it looked like. And I actually, yeah, it does have a right side up and upside down, trust me. Actually, it had a whole bunch of the house paint that I used, and then I just blobbed on some watercolor on purpose just to color it and see what it was going to look like when it grows up and gets finished. So save all of that. Even your paper towels. Okay, look at these. These are the ones I used yesterday, and I think they're actually even cooler than this whole silly project I just did. Look. I just let them dry. These are the ones that I used to, you know, do the little blendy deal. That one I used on the watercolors, and these were for the oil pastels. You can see it's a little different, but they're gorgeous, and I will be using these on something. And then that one. Just look how pretty that is. So don't throw those things away. You know, find a way to neatly store them and keep them, because you can use that. Okay, I hope that was helpful to someone. Yeah, the end.